What's good, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Franchise Play, and we are back with a little bit of a late version of Ask FP. I apologize. News is going everywhere. It's blowing up left and right. NBA Live is not coming out in 2016. Oh my God. I'm really joking. It's unfortunate. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, when they bring it out in 2017, which will probably be NBA Live. What is that? 18. That hopefully they'll get their stuff together and there'll be a viable competition. But now let's take it out. If just so we can get this out in the open, I want to talk about this every single time. If you want to be a part of Ask FP and you want to ask a question, I know that needs to be switched around. There we go. You want to ask a question or whatever, all you got to do, at Unique Mazik. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. I should have had this up here already. It's not up here yet because I'm late. And because I'm late, and that's some stuff that usually would be done is not. So there it is. So now you know. And no one's half the battle. All right. Well, it's not working yet, but it will. Trust me. So yeah, at Unique Mazik. That's all you got to do on Twitter. Hashtag AskFP, and then we will we'll get it. We'll get everything in order. We'll get the questions up. The question of the week usually is going to be something. I'm trying to get my hat. You see, my hat ain't even right. I don't even know what my hat is wrong. Everything's wrong on AskFP this morning or this. I don't even know what time of day it is. I'm just all over the place. But yeah, if you want to just hashtag AskFP at Unique Mazik. Question of the week is generally the question that's most compelling. I can turn into a headline of a video. That usually is what gets it. So without further ado, let's jump into this first question of the day, which comes from Thompson, Denmark. Thompson, Denmark. He is a relatively new Ask FPer, and he has been coming through pretty consistently. I think over the last 2 to 3 weeks. I appreciate you. He asked the top 5 players of all time, regardless of any controversy. So for those who are not baseball fans and not familiar with that particular term, 5-tool player is a player who can hit for average, hit for power, he can run, he has a good glove in the field, and he has a powerful throwing arm, right? Those are the 5 tools for baseball. If you can do all 5 of those things, you are going to be called a 5-tool player. For me personally, my top 5 tool players are not necessarily in this order, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr., and Alex Rodriguez. Now, notice, Thompson, Denmark said, regardless of controversy. So I wouldn't be the person that would leave out Bonds and A-Rod anyway. I would include them anyway, but just so for anyone who's about to address it from that standpoint. But yeah, what about the PEDs? And here was my criteria for selecting that. You had to win at least 1 Gold Glove, right? So we already know Willie Mays, arguably the greatest defensive center fielder of all time. Think about Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle only won one Gold Glove, and because he was the shaky one that I put in there. His best year as far as stolen bases was only 21 steals as well. But the consensus about Mickey Mantle was that he had good speed and he was a good fielder. Barry Bonds, I think it's 9 Gold Gloves, all-time home run leader. Just come on. A-Rod when he was a shortstop, he was a Gold Glove level shortstop, and he also has a 40-40 year under his belt. So, and Griff, come on. It is what it is. So there we go. That was that. It was a pretty good question there, sir. I appreciate you. All right, let's jump to the next one, which comes from, as soon as I find it here, my man Von Resper Jr. Von Resper Jr. says, where do you see Kam Chancellor among the greatest safeties in NFL history? Now, that one kind of, I'm going to be honest with you, Von, that one kind of blew me a little bit. And here's the reason why. I'm not trying to say that Kam Chancellor is not a good player. I'm not saying that at all, right? But what I'm saying is I'm not really totally sure that he's been in the, I guess. I mean, he got his rookie is 2010. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, the dude has played what, 5 seasons? 5 seasons, and not even a whole 5, because we know he missed a lot with the holdout, right? And I guess because football, man, because guys get hurt so often in some careers. I mean, the average career in football, actually, if you look this up, the average career in football is 3 seasons long. So he's already doubled that, so to speak, or close to doubling that. So I don't know, man. You know, one thing, it's hard to judge the players on the Legion of Boom, because 3 of those guys are so good. It's almost to the point where it's difficult to say who's really great. Because I know Richard Sherman, they take a lot of his credit away because he plays with Earl Thomas, because he plays with Kam Chancellor, because he played with Brandon Brown, you know. So I don't know. I'm not ready to call Kam Chancellor one of the greatest of all time yet, but he is absolutely one of the best, if not the best, strong safeties since he's been in the league. So I can give him that. I can give him that for sure. And I'm not trying to say like he's not great, because this dude is a beast. I mean, you know, Deion Buchanan for the Arizona Cardinals, they basically tried to pattern him after Kam Chancellor because of how much of a force Kam Chancellor is, you know, in the box. So I'm not trying to diminish him at all, but I don't know. It just seems early for me. All right, next up, we got Trash Boat 2K. He's been coming through strong as well. And he says, who do you rate higher? This is a good question. Lennox Lewis or Mike Tyson? I think Lennox has a far better resume. I don't know if I would say far better resume. I mean, the one big thing you got to include in this is the fact that Lennox beat Mike Tyson, even though you do have to say that the Mike Tyson he beat was way past his prime, right? But he did beat Mike Tyson. Here's the thing about Lennox. Lennox Lewis lost to more people he had no business losing to than probably any other heavyweight that you could consider great, just about. Getting knocked out by Oliver McCall in the 2nd round, getting knocked out by Hasim Rahman. Neither of those guys even on paper deserved to be in the ring with Lennox, but they knocked him out. They didn't eke out a win. They knocked him out. Now, the thing about Lennox, though, but Lennox was at his best fighting against the top-notch fighters, fighting against the Holyfields, fighting against the Mike Tysons, even in his last fight against Vitaly Klitschko, which, if you saw that fight, Klitschko was turning the tide at the end of the fight, but his eye was so badly messed up, they had to stop the fight. But Klitschko was getting with Lennox at the end. Now, I don't want to come off like somebody that doesn't like Lennox. I do like Lennox a lot. But Mike Tyson absolutely dominated the sport. Now, I will say this. He dominated the sport at a very weak time in the heavyweight division. Only time that was probably weaker was the one we're just coming out of now. So it's hard, but I would have to probably agree with you with the tiebreaker being, even though Mike wasn't at his best when Lennox beat him, because it's somewhat close from an evaluation standpoint, because he has the head-to-head victory, I would have to give it to Lennox. All right, let's go to the next question, y'all. And I got to make sure we don't pull up. I'm doing this a little bit different way. I shouldn't have done it this way because it's a little bit harder to see where my latest question is. All right, let's go here. And this also comes from Trash Bag. I almost said Trash Bag. I ain't mean that, dog. Trash Boat 2K. And he says, and I got a lot of boxing questions, and I'm loving it. Keep them coming. I'm loving it. He says, if you were an up-and-coming fighter, would you sign with Al Heyman, Golden Boy, or Top Rank? Woo, that's a good question, but check it out. Here's my answer. It would depend on who was offering me the most money. I think all 3 of them are crooked, just like every other entity in boxing, right? So you got to know that as a fighter coming in, that this is a crooked, nasty business. And ultimately, your goal should be to promote yourself, like Floyd, like Miguel Cotto. That's ultimately what your goal should be. A lot of guys don't want to take that on because they just want to concentrate on the fighting. It takes a special guy to be able to do both, right? And I think that's another thing. Even though Floyd works with Al Heyman and Al Heyman functions as a promoter, even though he works through a loophole that allows him to still be categorized as a manager, which is one of a whole nother conversation. But whoever's offering me the most money, because all of these different promotional entities have proven that they're going to put the money and the push behind whoever can make them the most money. You know, I mean, and Floyd got some heat for saying, you know, how racial boxing is, but it is. It very much is. History will show you that Top Rank has supported Hispanic or Mexican. Well, I would just say actually Mexican. They've supported Mexican fighters a little more than any other nationality. I mean, obviously Bob Arum's running it. He's not Hispanic. You never know how or why this is. But if you just think back at the lineage of the people who have been the cash cow guy for Top Rank, who has it been? Okay. Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. Come on. We see what the deal is there. Al Heyman is an African-American. And if you look at the boxers and the fighters who are pushed the most by Al Heyman, who is it? So these are facts, man. I mean, the latter part is facts. You can take from them what you will, but that also might have to factor into your decision. Who are you, and how much do you think this particular promotional company is going to back you? That's a very important aspect of the whole thing. You know, how much love are you going to get? So you can't like dismiss it, because that's important. That's definitely important. All right, so let's go to the next question. That, like I said, that was a good question, and we got a lot of boxing today, and I like I said, I love it. All right, we got. I'm gonna have to find a better way to do this, because this is really difficult to see what we're asking here. All right, we got. This is crazy, man. All right, this is from Jared Young. It's been a minute since Jared got the question of the week. He usually brings it, but he's still bringing it. But everybody else is stepping up their questions. He says, if Floyd Money Mayweather were to come out of retirement, who would you like to see him fight? Now, I know a lot of you guys have seen Floyd actually even adding fuel to the fire with the whole Conor McGregor situation and saying, hey, that this is possible. I don't know if it's possible or not. I tweeted it out. I tweeted out some of it. It doesn't seem that feasible, but hey, we can't say anything won't happen with Floyd. Floyd's going to go where the money is. That's for sure. You know that's going to happen. And the fact of the matter is there is no other human being on the face of the earth probably that Floyd could fight and make more money than if he fought McGregor. But here's the thing. The UFC still has him under contract, and there's no way in the world Dana White and the Fertitta brothers are going to give Conor the green light to fight Floyd, right? So I just can't see that happening without them getting some sort of cut in it or something. By the way, Floyd would kill Conor in a boxing match. If it's an MMA fight, Conor's going to win, but in a boxing match, Floyd's going to absolutely embarrass Conor McGregor. So if you're even entertaining that, just know that. But in the realm of boxing, it's hard, man. It's really hard because there's a lot of guys that Floyd could fight that, first of all, let me say this. The Golovkin thing is ridiculous to me. I just don't see why Floyd should have to go up to fight him at 160. Floyd started his career at 130 pounds, I believe it is. 130 pounds, 130, 135. And he's already gone up 24 pounds. 24 pounds to 154 to win a title, right? So you want him to go up 30 to fight a guy who hasn't beat anybody? Why is the guy who is the no doubt Hall of Famer, who is 49-0, why does he have to inconvenience himself physically for a guy who has not beat anybody? Golovkin's biggest win is against Daniel Gio and David Lemieux. If you don't know boxing, you don't even know who those two people are. So why in the world is Floyd being tasked with coming up to his weight class? Really? That's ridiculous to me. I mean, I find that just. So people are like, if he's the best, and he's the TBE, he should really get out of here. Find some place to fly. That is crazy, man. There's no way in the world that should happen. So that's whatever. So I take him totally out of the whole situation. To me, it's between Terrence Crawford, the winner of the Thurman Porter fight, and Danny Garcia for sure. And if you just want a show and you don't necessarily want like who can beat Floyd, the most entertaining fight would probably be against Broner from a commercial standpoint, not from a hardcore fight fan standpoint, because I think Floyd destroys Broner pretty easy. But from the whole shebang that is a Floyd fight, the hype, the everything, that is going to be a ridiculous circus that everybody's going to pay attention to. I think Floyd destroys Danny Garcia pretty easy. Danny's a good fighter, but Danny is way too flat-footed. He's too slow of foot, and even though he has decent hand speed and he has good power, that good power is at 140 pounds. We haven't seen it really shown itself at 147 at all. And from a overall speed and accuracy standpoint, I think Floyd beats him easy. The tough fights are Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford. Those are the tough fights. You could even make the argument that perhaps his protege, Errol Spence, is a tough fight. But everybody else is just, honestly, to be totally honest, you guys are going to laugh when I say this, especially if you're not hardcore boxing fans. I've always felt that Amir Khan was a really tough fight for Floyd. And here's the reason why. The one thing that we never really see Floyd tested with is with someone who has amazing speed. Okay. Amir Khan has the fastest hands in the sport, aside from Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr. is the only dude in the sport that I've seen right now, currently, that has hands faster than Khan. As a matter of fact, of the people that I've seen fight live, the only other person I can think of whose hands were faster than Gary Russell was Meldrick Taylor. We're talking about some straight, if you feel me. All right. So I wonder what Floyd does against a guy with that type of hand speed, where everybody says, well, Amir Khan doesn't have a chin and this, that, and the third. You know what? It's not even so much that Amir Khan doesn't have a chin, because I wrote this in my recap of the Canelo Khan fight, right? Amir Khan has never been knocked out by a soft punch. Every single time he's been hit with a titanic shot. So the issue is not so much his chin, it's his defense. Because there is nobody in boxing who will get hit with the shots he's hit with and going to stand there. You're going to get knocked out when you're getting hit with shots this flush. The problem is he gets hit flush too often. That's the problem. And then, yes, he has an average chin, so when he gets hit, he goes away. But here's the thing. Floyd's not a huge puncher because he generally won't sit down on his shots enough because he doesn't commit to the punch. Floyd could punch harder than he does if he wanted to, but he'd be sacrificing some defense to do that. Would Floyd be willing to take some of Amir Khan's shots with all of the hand speed to sit down on the shot enough to try to hurt Khan and expose the defense? I think that's a fascinating fight. But the thing about it is Khan may not be the same guy, because the knockout he suffered at the hands of Canelo is a life-changing, career-changing type of a knockout. We're talking about boxing, guys. When you get blown out in basketball, you come back, nobody's physically hurt, you got beat by 40, you come back, you play the next day. When you get blown out in boxing, it could change your life for real. So we don't know what kind of fighter Amir Khan is going to be moving forward. We don't. So we'll see. All right, next question. What we got here? I think I figured out a way to do this to make this a little bit faster. Sorry. We got Shadier Globe. I think I said that right, or Shadier Globe. I'm going a little bit too extra with the pronunciation. I thought you was getting a little extra fancy. And I thought it was Shadier, but it ain't. It's Shadier. Shadier Globe says, who's the best player stats wise since Michael Jordan? So basically this century. I think that's pretty easy, even though this guy I'm going to name didn't play in the first 3 years of the century. But LeBron is easily the best player stat-wise. I mean, if you look at the player who has led the NBA in player efficiency rating the most, or over the whole span of his career from 03 to the present, it's LeBron. Obviously, you see Steph stepping up right now in these last 2 seasons and having amazing seasons. But LeBron has been this level amazing for over a decade. So until Steph does it more consistently and continues to do it at this level, which I'm not doubting that he will, you got to say it's still LeBron. And also, when Steph becomes a better defender, that doesn't have to be hidden on the floor. You know, I give Steph all the credit, and where's the greatest shooter I ever seen in my life. He's one of the probably 3 to 4 best offensive players I've ever seen in my life. But defensively, he has to be hidden. And I can't call a guy who has to be hidden on defense the best player. I can't do that. Steph has to be hidden from tough one-on-one matchups, and his defense comes from playing team defense and playing the passing lanes. Okay, I get it. You're on the floor. You're doing what you're supposed to do within the confines of a really good defense. I'm totally with you. But if I'm going to compare you to a guy who changes the game defensively, which is what LeBron does, if it's close offensively, I'm going with that guy. All right, so let's go to the next question. I'm fired up today, y'all. Can y'all tell? I'm a little bit fired up. All right, so the next question is from Derek, and Derek I think he's a first-time Ask FP'er. I appreciate you here, bro. Which sports game best represents its sport as far as gameplay and presentation? Now, I love presentation in sports video games. It is fantastic. I think it adds so much to the game. I think it's probably the most underrated aspect of sports games. I get tired. I can't stand the people that just button through all the presentation. Stop doing it. You know how many people in the audio visual development part of the team work for hours to add them overlays, and you just don't do that. It's disrespectful. It's like your mama cook all the food and she cooked 4 different meals and you come down there and you just eat the fries. Don't do that. You better eat your mama food, you know what I'm saying? And eat all these people what they making on the thing. I just had to say that. But anyway, look, the best game to me, best sports game from a gameplay presentation standpoint, who they nail their sport, right? Now, NBA 2K to me is the best game, the best sports game, right? But I think that MLB The Show nails their sport better than 2K. Now, I'm not saying 2K doesn't hit their sport, because they do. They do. They absolutely hit their sport. But NBA 2K to me is the best sports game because of everything that's in it. And some of the things that are in it are not really necessarily basketball stuff. You know, like my team's not basketball stuff. It's just a cool mode that was taken from Ultimate Team. My career is not necessarily basketball stuff. It's just an awesome concept that came from the NBA to Life from the Sony's PlayStation series. You know, the Pro-Am is just an awesome concept altogether, just dope, right? But all of that's not necessarily about basketball. It's more about technological innovation, more so than anything. MLB The Show, when you play that game, it matches the real life sport better than any other sports game out there. And for that reason, my long answer to that is MLB The Show. All right, so we got another question coming up. And this one also comes from Thompson, Denmark. He had the question of the week. And Thompson this time is saying, Who was the most dominating athlete in their sport? Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Schumacher, Lance Armstrong, or Tiger Woods, or somebody else? I'm going to have to say it. I'm not going to really go to anybody else. I couldn't really think of anybody else that would maybe knock either of those people off. But I'm going to eliminate some people. I'm going to eliminate Wilt Chamberlain because as dominant as Wilt Chamberlain was, right, you got to remember Wilt won, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty positive I'm right here. Wilt won 2 championships. Constantly coming up short against Bill Russell. Won 2 championships. Now, I'm not saying 2 championships is not great because it is. It's fantastic. But there's so many other players, even his era and after, who have won more. So when we start talking about domination, it's hard to say that. Now, here's the other thing. It's hard to include Wilt Chamberlain in this conversation because we're talking about he's the only guy in a team sport that plays a team sport in this scenario that you gave me. So you also got Michael Schumacher, who was in an individual sport. Lance Armstrong was an individual sport, and so is Tiger Woods. So I think they're kind of off to their self. So Michael Schumacher was it seven championships. You got all of the majors that Tiger has won. But all of that said, I don't think anybody dominated like Lance. We know it's been tainted by the PED usage, but if we're just talking about pure winning and not taking into consideration or taking any credit away for, and I do think credit needs to be taken away if you're, if you were, use cheating and other people, you had an unfair advantage. The reason why I don't necessarily say that in baseball is because it really appears that almost nearly the whole entire league was on steroids. I mean, there were, oh my God, amount of people on steroids. So how are we just going to pick these 10 guys out? The ones who did it the best, and we're going to hold it against them. I just think that just complicates everything. From what we know, you got Landis and you got Armstrong are the primary guys that are from a PED standpoint. Yeah, obviously there's others, but those guys stick out really like a sore thumb. So I do take something away there, but I still would have to say Lance is the most dominant of the ones you gave me. Michael Schumacher is not going to get a lot of credit from American sports fans because not that many people follow Indy F1, Formula One racing. I'm not a big follower of it, but I do know that he did win 7 championships, and that is significant. Especially if you look at, I think they were split too, because he won from 2000 to 2004, and he might have won 93 and 94, is it 94 and 95, somewhere in there. But that type of run, especially when you split it up like that, is pretty amazing. All right, let's go to the next question, and this comes from Jared Young as well. And I told you we got a lot of boxing questions. He says, I'm curious, would a Gennady Golovkin versus Canelo fight be bigger than Pacquiao versus Mayweather? Absolutely not. No way in the world. Neither of those guys. Now, okay, here it is. Canelo, Golovkin has built up a really nice following. He has. But I'm going to put it to you like this. Golovkin is not even a pay-per-view fighter unless he's fighting somebody of significant stature. And that's a very important part of that. Both Pacquiao and Mayweather are pay-per-view fighters no matter who they fight. Pacquiao could fight me tomorrow behind the house, and it's a pay-per-view. Mayweather could fight you in your yard tomorrow, and it's a pay-per-view. Golovkin's got to be fighting somebody of significance. Canelo's about at that point where no matter who he fights, it's probably going to be a pay-per-view. He's probably at that point. But Golovkin's not quite there yet. And because you don't have two guys who carry pay-per-view level status just by showing up, it's not the same. It's not the same. It would not be the same. Then also you don't have the anticipation thing. Everybody was waiting on Floyd and Pacquiao for years before it happened. So you had all of this. You had if you talk to somebody who didn't know anything about boxing and a boxing conversation came up, just to be safe so they could participate in the conversation, they say, hey, but what about Mayweather Pacquiao? Because they don't know nobody else. But that speaks to the fame that those two fighters have. If you don't know but two boxers in the world, the two boxers you probably know is Floyd and Pacquiao. Unless you are somewhat of a decent boxing fan, you probably don't know who Golovkin. Here's the test. I used to do this all the time. I would ask my wife, or I'd ask my mother when my mother was here. God rest her soul. When she was here, I would. That's how I would test somebody's fame. If they had heard of him, then I say, yeah, well, this person is really, really famous. But if they hadn't, they still just a regular dude. Because I know that my mother and my wife are not huge sports fans like that. But the only thing they know is what they heard me talking about. So, you know, and I'm telling, my wife knows who Canelo is because she said, oh, that's the Hispanic guy that looks Irish. And she just saw him knock Amir Khan out. So, and she also saw Floyd beat him. So, you know, but she probably wouldn't even know that if she wasn't married to me. So it is what it is. All right, let's go to the next question. What do we got? I got a lot of questions. I had a good amount of questions this time, y'all. I hope y'all enjoying this. Y'all let me know. Absolutely. Leave in the comment section your comments or what you got to say in regards to this. Also, if you want to continue to see Ask FP and you dig it, you like it, hit that like button as well, and also hit the share button. Let other people know about Ask FP. And if this is for whatever reason your first time you stumbled upon Ask FP, subscribe. I do this every Tuesday for sure. All right, we got another question from Trash Boat 2K, and it is yet another boxing question. I told y'all brung the sweet science strong. He says, did Mayweather avoid too many fighters in their prime to be called the best ever? Oh, I just don't buy into that concept, man. I mean, you know how many so I know Floyd is a smart businessman and everything, but do people really think that he's that smart where he strategically placed all of these things in place to fight all of these guys right when it was just okay for him to fight them? So De La Hoya, Mosley, Cotto, Pacquiao, Diego Corrales, Ricky Hatton, Arturo Gatti, Sean Bay Mitchell, Juan Manuel Marquez, Jose Luis Castillo, Zab Judah, all of these names, these guys that you hear their name, automatically you know who they are. Banks, Canelo Alvarez, all of these guys, a lot of those guys I named are going to the Hall of Fame, right? And so people's arguments is that, okay, Oscar was too old. Okay, they say Shane was too old. They say Pacquiao was too old, even though Floyd's older than Pacquiao. Okay, they say Cotto was too old. Nobody has really nothing to say about the Diego Corrales win, though. He just whooped Diego Corrales, a guy who was a beast. Then now the only fight I ever scored against Floyd was the first fight against Jose Luis Castillo. I thought Castillo won that fight. Just me being honest, I thought he won. That's the one fight I scored for that. You know, Ricky Hatton was a dangerous, scary fighter. He was. Now everybody talks about Pacquiao's knockout of Hatton because it was devastating. It was scary, one of those scary knockouts. But Floyd had knocked Hatton out before that. Floyd almost completely shut Juan Manuel Marquez out, almost 12 rounds to 0, right? Every single fight Pacquiao ever had against Marquez was tooth and nail. Even the first one when he knocked Marquez down 3 times in the first round, but almost lost almost every other round after that. And then got knocked in the next week, the last time they fought. But nobody questions Pacquiao's resume, but they question the guy who beat him and beat everybody he lost to. I don't, except for Bradley, but I'm like, I don't get it. So no, I don't think that. I don't think Floyd's the best ever. I think he's one of the best, but I don't think he's the best ever. I think if I would take Sugar Ray Leonard over Floyd, I would, in his prime, I'd take Roy over Floyd, and probably Sugar Ray Robinson. But that's about it. That's about it. You know, I can't say I would take, you know, it's hard for me to compare Floyd to a heavyweight, you know. So it's hard for me to compare Floyd to Ali. It's hard for me to compare him to Larry Holmes. And those are the two greatest heavyweights I ever saw. So it's hard for me to compare him to them because the size that everything is so, you know, guys are so much bigger. But in his weight region, so to speak, those are the only ones I would put ahead of Floyd. So that's that. All right, let's go to the next question. What do we got? What do we got? All right, we got Derek again. Derek Dynasty. He says, "Who?" And this was a really interesting question. Who would you resurrect for one last concert? James Brown, Michael Jackson, or Prince? It's actually a pretty easy answer for me. Easy is Michael Jackson. Easy. Like, I like songs from all three, and I think all three were brilliant in their own way, right? But as far as a person that I could like say, that dude is cool, I like that guy, he's a cool dude, it would be Magic for me. I mean, Magic. It would be Michael for me. It'd be Michael Jackson for me. James Brown's a little too old for me to connect with like that. Like, I'm like, he was alive. I mean, I think like one of the only songs he made that I can like remember like that is "Living in America." They used to have it in Rocky. It was I like the song actually, and I like a lot of James Brown. I mean, hip hop in the late '80s, early '90s was a lot of it was based off James Brown beats. I mean, Eric B. and Rakim. I know you got soul. That's why I came to teach those who can't say my name. You know, I mean, a lot of that, the dope hip hop is using James Brown beats for sure, or at least the tempo, the style, or whatever. And Prince, although I love so many songs, Prince was always just too odd for me. I'm just being real. I'm just being real. A lot of times people die. I told y'all this before. People die, and all of a sudden they become the greatest thing ever. And Prince was an absolute genius. Played 26 instruments at an expert level. But all of the persona, that ain't Brian. That ain't Brian. That is not franchise. It's not me. I can't do it. But I love Adore. I love Insatiable. I love I Want to Be Your Lover. I want to be the most beautiful girl in the world. Gold. It's Nothing Compares to You. You know, I can go on and on and on about songs I like of his. But for Mike, it's different. I like all of them, a whole bunch of songs, but Mike just seemed like that was my dude. When Mike died, it was crazy because Mike and Steve McNair died on the same day. I don't know if y'all remember that. Mike and Steve McNair died on the same day. I was messed up, man, for literally about 2-3 days. I was like, what's going on? Mike and Steve McNair? All right, what is good? So I was, it would definitely be Mike for me. Definitely be Mike. All right, let's go. What we got? This one also comes from Von Respa Jr. And he says, do you think that Finn Balor will ever join the main roster? I don't know why he wouldn't. You know what I think what's happening is they're bringing so many people up, right? In this whole wave of revolution, right? They can't totally kill the NXT product because that's their task right now. Okay, inject the main roster with a bunch of new blood, but we can't kill the NXT roster. And right now, that dude, Finn Balor, is the guy, So I think everybody expected, when Samoa Joe won, that usually that's what happens. They have the guy give up the title, and then, the next Raw or whatever, after that, he makes his debut. But I think he's definitely coming. I mean, the dude is too big of a star. But I think his debut might like take place at like a major pay-per-view. Like he's gonna make his debut at the Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, or WrestleMania. I don't think they debut him on Raw. I just don't think so. So we'll see. Next question comes from my man Simon Torvey Sunland, and he says, do you think that the Pacers did do you think my Pacers did right in firing Frank Vogel? Personally, I think they were wrong. I mean, I understand why you say that, Simon. Last year you played without, and you almost had a chance to make the playoffs at the end, and you played without Paul George, your best player, one of the best players in the NBA. I totally get it. But here's the thing. You generally only get to last as a coach, especially without winning the championship. You only get to last as a coach the lifespan of the nucleus, your best nucleus, right? So the Pacers' best nucleus was the Danny Granger, Paul George, Roy Hibbert, George Hill team, and David West. That was his nucleus, right? When that team broke up, his days were numbered. Just period. That's the way it always goes. You know, if you don't win with that clique that you have, you very rarely get an opportunity to have that second nucleus come in and get a full run with them. I think they just thought it was time to change. Larry Bird had a really crazy, it was kind of crazy, but I guess he's kind of right to a degree. He said the lifespan for a head coach in the NBA is only 3 years. You know, obviously you got people like Popovich that will prove that wrong, but I think what he meant probably is that's a normal circumstance. So it is what it is. All right, let's see what we got next. I didn't eliminate very many questions this week. I took almost everybody's because it wasn't really anything that was not, it wasn't a lot of stuff that I could eliminate, really, to be honest. Victor Torres says, what should the Brooklyn Nets, or what is the quickest way back to the playoffs? Future worst team, no draft picks. So Victor, for me, I think what you're asking is what's the path for them, the quickest path for them back? I think it's a combination of the draft and free agency. They are still in Brooklyn, and that's still going to have somewhat of an appeal, I think, for the right guy. But they got to try to get something in the draft. If I'm them, I'm trying to package something to get in the first round. I'm trying to do something to get a pick, and the pressure is going to be on so big if they can do something to get a pick, because you got to hit a home run with it. You got to hit a home run with it because you don't have no picks, man. And that's why that whoever takes that head coaching job, it's going to be rough, man, because the help is not on the way anytime soon. So it's a rough deal for them. But I think that the best thing for them is, first of all, trying to find a trade that they can work to get in the first round. You got to hit a home run with that pick. So you're going to have to get somebody who is surprisingly impacting in their first year or two. And then you got to convince somebody to come play there that's a free agent who can also make an impact. And it's probably going to have to be somebody who is not a Kevin Durant type, because you're not going to get him. Why would he come there? But it's going to have to be a second-tier free agent that you can convince to come. And that's the way. That's the quickest way back. All right, what do we got next? We got another question from Victor Torres, I believe, and we just messed it up. All right, here we go. Oh, how about we shared the wrong thing? All right, let's come back. That's not what we got. All right, let's see. All right, y'all got to bear with me for a second. Here we go. All right, it's from Dorian, and he says, if Harden stayed in Oklahoma City, do you think that the Thunder would have won a championship? I think that's really difficult to say. I think one of the biggest reasons why Oklahoma City hasn't won a championship yet doesn't really have anything to do with a lack of talent. Yes, right now we can look and say, well, they're missing the two guard. And James Harden did somewhat obviously feel that role at the time. And if we're playing 2K, absolutely. But this is not 2K. This is real basketball, and there's only one ball out there. You got to have guys that share the ball. You got to have an actual offense. And can those three guys participate in an actual offense? Yes, they got to the finals. They got to the finals and lost to the Miami Heat. They did. James Harden played terrible in the finals, and that was one of the reasons why they didn't win. But it's hard for me to automatically say that they would win the championship just based off of how good Westbrook and Durant still are and how good of a scorer Harden has become. Because if his defense were to fall off to the level it has now and while he was still in Oklahoma City, I don't know. I'm just not the biggest James Harden fan like a lot of people, so that's not an automatic for me. So let's see. Let's go to the next question, which is not easy to see. All right. Yeah. How about I won't do this like this anymore? Because I'm trying to find my question here, and it is really playing real difficult for me right now. We're gonna, you know what we're gonna do? I know what I'm gonna do to get. I should have done this before to get my questions up. So yeah. Anyway, let's guys. Why we gotta waste some time while I clear this out a little bit. So this is what happens when you're rushed and you're not prepared. But the all right, here we go. We got the next question. And actually, it's coming from Victor Torres. No, this is this is not it. This is not it. This is not it. All right, you guys got to give me a break. You know, this is the first time I've had technical difficulties on Ask FP doing it live. All right, here we go. This is the last question. It comes from Victor Torres. It says, your thoughts on the Lakers possibly trading Paul George? Trading for Paul George, I'm sorry. I have heard that rumor. I also heard one, and this wasn't a rumor. It was more of a suggestion about the Bulls, trading Jimmy Butler to the Lakers for the if the Lakers get either the first, or I think it's either the second or third pick if they got. Honestly, and this is just me, Paul George is an amazing player. I said earlier today he's one of the best players in the NBA. But I am a very big believer in Ben Simmons. I know a lot of people have gone sour on him for whatever reason. I've talked about in the past how I think it's way too early to judge a 19-year-old. But if I got that number one pick, I'm not trading it to nobody. I'm getting Ben Simmons. And we're going to go from there. But Paul George would be one of the few guys that I would say maybe, because I believe he's that good. So I don't. It depends on if it's the number 2 pick and down, because I like Brandon Ingram a lot, but for me personally, I like Ben better. So I just think the upside is higher. So if it's any pick but the number 1 pick, I would do it for Paul George. I would. But if it's the number 1 pick, I'm going to keep it and I'm going to take Ben Simmons. So that's it for this episode of Ask FP. I promise next episode it'll flow a little bit smoother because I'll have that already ready, and hopefully EA Sports won't decide to cancel NBA Live 18 right before I go on for Ask FP, and I'll be better prepared. All right. I appreciate everybody watching. Like I said, leave your comments in the comment section. God bless. Peace.